What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to tell you about the 5 things that I love about the M2. Having a wonderful morning, whatever day this is. I hope it's fantastic. I of course wanted to make a video talking about the M2 and all of the things that I absolutely love about it. This is a video that I make with all my cars to just kind of give you guys perspective and a little bit of insight from my point of view. I didn't want to make the video right away because I did want to live with this car for a little bit before I gave you guys my opinion. Before we do anything, coffee. Now that we are properly caffeinated, let's go make this video. Man, I love this car. All right, you guys, so today we are talking about the 5 things that I really like about my BMW M2. This is a 2017 manual transmission, not a competition, just a baseline M2. We're gonna talk about why I like it. So I guess first we'll start out with the aesthetics of the car. I just love the way that this car looks in general. The front is super aggressive. The front bumper on the M2s and the M2 competitions, in my opinion, are the best M-looking bumpers. They just have a certain aggression to them that the M3s and the M4s are kind of lacking, in my opinion. And when I was looking at M3s and M4s, the front end just stood out on the M2 to me. It just looked like such a different animal compared to those two. So I'm just really a big fan of the aesthetics of this car, the wideness of it, the wheelbase, pretty much everything. The way that these cars are set up stock are just phenomenal. And it really doesn't even take too much effort to get the car to look that much better. Like, all we've done on this car really is a paint correction and tint, and it already looks so good. The second thing that I really like about this car is the way that it drives. It's such a different experience. So I have an F30 328i, and currently I have an E90 M3, but this car, this M2, just drives completely different compared to any of those cars. It's extremely nimble and it handles really well. I do prefer more of that raw hydraulic steering when it comes to the E90 M3 because it has such a better feel. It feels like you're much more connected to the road. But all things considered, with the electronic steering, this feels really good. So with a shorter wheelbase, the handling is improved that much more, and this car just feels stock from the factory, like it's just ready for the track, and it rips. It absolutely rips around corners. I can't wait to put a suspension on this car because I really think it's going to transform it and take it up to the next level. The third reason that I kind of fell in love with this car is just the transmission. The fact that I went with a manual transmission was an absolute game changer. So it might not be the fastest, right? Because it's not a DCT. DCT can definitely shift gears faster than manual. However, the experience, I am more interested in the experience of a car when I buy it, and the experience of driving this car with the manual transmission is unlike anything else. It's absolutely fantastic. If I could do it all over again with the E90, I would have bought it manual. Now that I have a manual BMW in the garage, the next car will definitely be manual, and the following cars after that will definitely be manual because it is such a fun experience driving this car. Every time that I get in the car, you are just so much more engaged and into the driving experience. In addition to the experience, the actual gearbox and transmission feels really good in this car. I think BMW did a fantastic job with the M cars that have manual transmissions. They feel incredible and they're just super fun to drive. If you guys have never driven a manual M car, please do it. Please go out there and find one. Ask a friend, go to a dealership, and drive a manual M car. They are just an absolute blast. You never get tired of it. It's just constantly fun. I could see why maybe people who daily drive these cars and commute to work, manual could probably get a little bit old after a while because you're sitting there in traffic. It's not the best experience when you're sitting there in traffic, but if you're just out spirited driving and just cruising around, this car is just so fun. It's so responsive, it's so nimble, it handles really well. The manual transmission makes you feel so connected to it. It's just the perfect spec. In my opinion, you have to go with the manual. The fourth reason that I really like this car, this M2 in particular, is because it has the N55B. So as you guys know, the M2 competition has the S55. The N55 is a little bit different, and these sound so good. I'm not really crazy about the way that the S55 sounds, and I think that the sound of a car is really, really important. I mean, that's why I love my E90 so much, because it sounds unmatched to anything else. It just sounds so incredible. The V8 in those cars are just straight up nasty. The N55 is a very, very good sounding engine. In comparison to the S55, I think the N55 takes the cake when it comes to the actual sound. Now, obviously the S55 is faster. That's a faster engine. It's a bigger engine. You're gonna get more power and torque out of it, but this car is fast in its own right, stock. This car is very quick. So for me personally, when it came to the price point and what you're getting straight out of the gate with the car, this thing is absolutely phenomenal with the N55B and the manual transmission. It's just perfect. I love it. I've never had a car that I love this much. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I had the F30, it was a great car, but it was just nothing like this car. And the E90 M3, still an awesome car, but it's not manual. And if I were to do it over again, I would have gotten it in manual. After having this car for a few weeks, I knew that I pretty much nailed it. It's the perfect spec for me, and I love the manual transmission with the N55. Those paired together, it's just a match made in heaven. So we talked a little bit about the engine, the aesthetics, the manual transmission, but the suspension and the braking is also really, really good on this car overall. Right out of the gate, like I said, stock. You're just getting so much bang for the buck on this M2 without even having to put anything on it. The way that BMW designed this car and the way that they built these cars just straight out of the gate without any bells and whistles, it is just perfect. It drives so well. I could see why people just buy this car and just keep it stock and drive it. It's honestly a fantastic car just like that. So I am really excited to put some modifications on it as far as full bolt-on, suspension and all that, because I can only imagine what it's going to drive like after we really fine-tune it and get it dialed in. One thing that I do want to talk about that's a little bit more specific to me as a creator and someone who's always making content on cars and specifically BMWs, it's really nice to be back into an F-Series chassis. So obviously I had the F30 and the 328, and then I went back to the E90, and having the E90 for a while, I did kind of miss a lot of things about the F-Series, just the styling and the modification opportunities. And I found that coming back to the F-Series, I just love the F-Series. There's something about the F-Series when BMW made them that is just, they just look so modern and so aggressive. And the front end on the E-Series is just kind of missing that. I love the E90 M3 and the E92 M3, but in my opinion, the front ends on those are just kind of, they're becoming a little bit outdated. They're still beautiful in their own right, and they're obviously like a classic BMW, but the front ends on the F-Series, they just look that much more modern. I'm not quite adapted to the G-Series yet. I think that those look a little too crazy for me. I'm still used to the F-Series, but I'm really happy to be back into an F-Series because the modifications for this car, there's so many of them and they're affordable. And so you never run out of ideas when you're working on these cars. I was able to do so much to the F30, and I kind of ran out of stuff on the E90, and it felt to me that modifying the E90 was becoming a little more of like, I didn't want to ruin the car. I started realizing that I was putting more money and time into just maintaining the car, whereas this car, I feel really confident just going nuts on it, just going absolutely crazy on it. Styling, engine, suspension, I feel like I can get a little more involved in this. The E90 though, that V8 is just, it's very temperamental. And I spent so much time when I first bought it just getting it to the right point with like the rod bearings and the valve cover gaskets and all that stuff. I just felt like if I started doing aftermarket stuff to it and to the engine and like tuning it and all of these different bolt-ons, that I might cause more issues down the road, and that car is incredibly expensive to fix. Whereas this car is a little more manageable, and I really don't have any fear when it comes to modifying it or just making it faster in general. So I think that that's something to be said about just the F-Series overall, and specifically this F87 M2. I just feel really good about getting into modifying this car, and I think that you get a lot of feedback from it when you start putting things on it. The car just starts to come to life very, very fast. The last thing that I want to talk to you guys about that really resonates with me on this car in particular is just the overall tech. So obviously with the F-Series, the F30, it was an older one and it didn't really have that much tech. I put a lot into it, but you could only get it to go so far when it came to the iDrive and the electronics that were in the car. It was just kind of capped out. And then you guys saw obviously that I went to the E90, which is a little bit older, so I lost a lot of that tech. Now coming back to the F-Series, but buying a newer one that has a ton of tech is just very, very refreshing. Like, this car is so easy and there are so many options in it just straight from the factory that I've really come to love. Having the Apple CarPlay, having the Bluetooth, having the wireless phone charger in the center armrest. I didn't really think that those would be things that I would love, but after having this car for a little bit, I've found that I absolutely love them. I find them now to be almost critical to the driving experience. And everything is very intuitive. I love the iDrive system in this car. I really like the Apple CarPlay. I'm just overall really happy with this purchase, you guys. I think for the amount I paid and for the mileage on the car and the year and just the entire package overall, this car's just perfect. So I was getting a lot of DMs on Instagram. You guys were asking me what I thought about this car, how it compared to the E90 M3 and how it compared to the F30. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this gave you some insight, and if you're someone that's looking at buying an M2, go for it. This is just such an incredible car, and just the way that it comes spec'd out stock from the factory, you're getting so much bang for your buck. Getting into an M car in the 30,000s is just a steal, especially if you can find one with like 30,000 miles on it. This car just feels brand new to me because I'm used to having cars that have over 50, 60, 70,000 miles. So getting into a car that has 30,000 miles to me feels incredibly brand new. Being the second owner of this car and for the price I paid, I just feel like I got a really, really good deal, and I'm so happy with the M2, but I'm really excited for the future of this car, being that we do modifications and we change a lot of things. I just think that this car has a ton of potential. I'm also really excited to expand the audience to the 2 Series and bring back a lot of the people that were in the F-Series chassis, because now that we have the F87 M2, there's a lot of things that I'm going to be doing to this car that you guys can do too. If you guys have like F30s or F80s, F82s, these are going to be a lot of modifications, especially externally and internally, that you guys can also do to your car. Anyways, guys, I hope that answered some of the questions for you. I'm also going to be making a specific video talking about this car and what it compares like to my E90 M3, because they are very, very different cars. I want to live with this car for a little bit longer and put some modifications on it and kind of compare it when it's already modified to the E90 M3. I just think that they're drastically different when this one is stock and the E90 M3 has some stuff done to it. But I promise you I will make that video, but for right now, to give you guys like the short answer, they are entirely different cars, and there really isn't one that I like more than the other. I like each of them for their own reasons. Anyways, guys, make sure you comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, what you guys drive, what you think about the M2. Are you looking to get one? Make sure you drop those comments down below. Like this video, hit that bell notification, subscribe. And just like that, this video is over, and we're out. Peace.
Wow.